Hi, in this video, we'll be discussing about pods. So a pod is the smallest unit in Kubernetes. It is a group of one or more containers, and it's also a specification telling how the containers will be running inside the Kubernetes cluster. Now, on the right hand side, you can see a YAML file. So this is a YAML file, and in that there are few important points like the API version. So API version where the pod is v1. The kind is the object, so we want to create a pod, so the kind will be pod. And then comes the metadata, which is where we define the name, labels and other things for the pod. So this is the label which we want to use in the future. And there's the name of the pod. So the pod will be created with the name called sample pod. And then comes the spec section. So all the containers that we want to define inside the pod comes under the spec sections. You can have one or more containers over there. To keep the scenario simple, we are using a single container with the image nginx, name as sample pod container with a port, container port 80. A pod will have its own IP address, and all the containers inside the pod will share the same storage, network, and IP address. So let's go through a demo to see that in detail. So we already have a file that I just showed you. So this is the sample file, and I do not have any pods running inside the cluster in the default namespace. So let's go ahead and create. And the command is kubectl create -f. We supply the file, the YAML file, and the pod gets created. Kubectl get pods, and we have a pod running. If you want to see additional details, then -o wide. So it tells you the pod name, the status, 1 out of 1 containers are ready, number of restarts that happens, the IP that it's assigned, the node on where it's running. Then you have other readiness and the gates if applicable, if it is specified in the YAML file, which we'll be talking about in future lectures. Now, a pod can also be created using imperative way. So the imperative way would look like kubectl run demo -image nginx, then -port equal to 80. So again, a pod is created, and if we do not specify any namespace, or we do not specify any namespace in the YAML file, it gets created in the default namespace. So if again we do kubectl get pods, now I should be having 2 pods. So we have a sample pod that was created by the YAML file, then I have a demo pod that is created using the imperative way. Now if we want to see the logs of the pod, it's simple, kubectl logs, then -f to follow the logs, and the name of the pod may be a demo. So this is just the logs that are coming of the container. And if we want to view the events of the pod, then we'll be doing a describe. So kubectl describe pod, then the pod name. So this is the description and the events. So if anything goes wrong, the first thing that usually we see in the Kubernetes world is we describe the Kubernetes object. So we get to see the number of events. So successfully assign the node, pulling the image, successfully pull the image, then creating the container, starting the container. So all these things that are happening from the kubelet scheduler, they come in the event section. And there are other sections that we'll be discussing in the future videos, like the taints and annotations, the toleration node selectors, and the keywords class, even the readiness probes. Next, what we have is, if we want to delete the pod, we just simply do kubectl delete pod demo. The pod gets deleted, and now if I do kubectl get pods, I will see only one pod that is running. And if we want to exec into the pod, we'll do kubectl just like the Docker exec. So we do kubectl exec -it, and then the pod name bash. So you can see I am now inside the running pod. So that's it for this particular lecture, where we have seen a few of the commands to create from the YAML file in the imperative way, and how to interact with the pod, see the logs, delete it, execute, and describe it. Thank you for watching. See you in the next lecture.